So now I'd like to introduce the moderator for the upcoming session number 4, Advancing Roadway Sustainability. It's Aaron Bradshaw. He's a professor of civil and environmental engineering at the University of Rhode Island, where he has been since 2011. He also holds a limited joint appointment in the Department of Ocean Engineering. He earned his BS in Civil in 1996 from Tufts University, his master's in Ocean Engineering from URI in 1999, and his PhD in Civil Engineering from URI in 2006. He worked as a geotechnical engineering consultant at Hart Krauser in Seattle, Washington from 2000 to 2003, and is a registered PE in Rhode Island. His research interests are in the digital twinning of geotechnical infrastructure, particularly for marine applications. While at URI, he has taught courses in soil mechanics, shallow and deep foundations, marine geotechnics, and geotechnical earthquake engineering. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Bradshaw and the panelists for the next session. Aaron.
Good morning. Thanks, Bill. It's my pleasure to moderate this session here on advancing roadway sustainability. So our first presentation is going to be by Dr. Rebecca Brown, Professor and Department Chair of Plant Sciences and Entomology at the University of Rhode Island. Her talk will be called Southern New England Highway ROWs as Habitat for Grassland Species. Dr. Brown conducts research and teaches in the Plant Sciences and Entomology Department at the University of Rhode Island. Her research areas include sustainable vegetable production, low input grasslands, especially on roadsides, and the development of grass species native to New England for use in revegetation and landscapes. Dr. Brown is a leader in the Sustainable Agriculture and Food Systems program, which focuses on the peri-urban agriculture of Southern New England. Rebecca?
Thank you, Aaron. So from that introduction, it should be clear to all of you that I am not a civil engineer. I work with plants. And what I'm going to talk about today is the plants that grow on the sides of the road and how they're important to the durability of our transportation infrastructure. So, so Southern New England highway right-of-ways as habitat for grassland species. The US DOT has been coming out with a lot of mandates over the past couple of decades, looking at native species, protection of native plants, protection of pollinators. There's one pending for the monarch butterfly that a lot of the state DOTs are scrambling to figure out how they're going to meet. And so that's where my work fits in the larger context. So why do we care about roadside grasslands? Why do we even have roadside grasslands? Well, first of all, erosion control and dust abatement. Grass is very good at holding soil in place. Safety. Obviously, we need a clear zone. Low vegetation also creates less cover for wildlife, less debris than larger trees and shrubs. But a lot of it is aesthetics. Remember that our roadways started out largely as parkways down around New York, Connecticut, New Jersey. These were designed by the same landscape architects who were designing places like Central Park. And they were designed with that same aesthetic of mowed grass and widely spaced trees. And now that's traditional, okay? And simplicity. DOT maintenance staff and the contractors that DOTs hire know how to plant grass. They know how to mow grass. They don't have to think about it. It's very easy for them. However, all of this grass also serves as habitat. And this is important, particularly in Southern New England. So if you look at this chart, which shows the forest cover in New England from initial European colonization, basically up to the present, you see that there was a huge dip in forest cover that it reached its lowest in about 1850. This was because European settlers came in and they cleared the forest and they put in farms and they put in towns, right? Well, this is important because our earliest records of what species are native to New England date only back to about 1850, because that's when people started building big herbaria collections and bird collections, and natural history became a big thing. That means we've got a bunch of species that we consider native that are grassland species and may not even have been here in 1600 because there wasn't habitat for them. They moved in from particularly places further south, places like Long Island that have always had grassland habitat. As agriculture decreased, that grassland either grew back to forest or got developed into, urban development. And we've gotten to a point where the highway right-of-ways are some of the most extensive upland grassland habitat we have left. Okay, because they're some of the only habitat that is mowed but not otherwise managed. So they aren't receiving all of the pesticides and the fertilizers that home lawns often receive. And so who uses these grasslands as habitat? Answer is lots of creatures. Creatures that you don't even notice when you're driving by, but if you actually get out there on the grassland and start looking, they're everywhere. A lot of these are pollinators, and we're very concerned now about our pollinators. Most of our native pollinators, the bees and the butterflies and the moths, are on decline. You've probably all heard that honeybees are struggling. The other creatures that live in the grasslands, many of them eat insects that cause problems, like dragonflies that eat large quantities of mosquitoes. So they're mostly good neighbors, and they need a place to live. One of the really important things about roadside grasslands is that many of these bees are ground nesters. Ground nesting bees are generally not welcome in lawns because people are afraid to step on them. They do very well in roadsides, and their burrows actually increase drainage, and they help to manage water coming off the road. So if we're going to improve the value of our roadsides as habitat, we want to reduce the mowing frequency and increase the cutting height, allowing the plants to bloom. This will also increase the rooting depth, increase carbon sequestration, which ties into the next talk, and help promote slope stability. We want to increase the diversity of our seed mixes, plant more native species. We want to plant more forbs, otherwise known as wildflowers. These are things that are pollinated by insects. And we want to add flowering shrubs where appropriate, because those also provide a very large food resource to our pollinators. So our research that was sponsored by this program focused on the effects of seeding on diversity, because one of the things about more diverse seeding mixes is that they're a lot more expensive. So you want to be sure that that seed you're putting down gives you the result that you're looking for. And so we compared 5 different methods of seeding. And what we found is that putting the seed on bare soil gave us the best diversity. It also gave us the most bare ground. And that may seem counterintuitive, except that it was small patches of bare ground. So what you had was a lot of clump forming plants. And these small patches don't increase erosion, but they do increase habitat for our pollinators. Okay. Other things that we found, we have identified over 180 species of plants in our plots. Only 26 of these were included in the seed mix. The others came in on their own. We think that 22 of them may have come in with the plantable soil, because when we did this on the bare soil treatments, we were trying to simulate new construction because they're common agricultural weeds, and most of our plantable soil comes out of farm fields. But over 132 of the species that we found were probably already in the roadside, and by reducing the mowing, we allowed them to grow and to prosper. We also identified 6 different species of bees using these plots as habitat, and we're just beginning our bee surveys. So our conclusions are that seeding onto bare soil results in the best habitat with the most total species, the most forbs, and the most plant space between the plants, which is important for nesting sites. Part of this diversity is due to the species that came in the seed bank of the plantable soil. And in some cases, those were invasive species that we might not have actually chosen. So future research, we want to look at establishment into existing soil following disturbance. So going in and actually disturbing the soil that's already on the roadside and then seeding into that, which will avoid potentially bringing in invasive species from outside. Also, we found that reducing mowing greatly increases diversity. And so these are my acknowledgements. All of the students and staff who've worked on the project, and then my technical consultants, technical champions for this project are the landscape architects at Rhode, Susan Voda and Trevor Jones. And then thanks to Rhode Maintenance for working with us and being willing not to mow our plots, and to TIDC for funding.